Being gay meant being really scared all the time.
I thought I would let my friends down, my family down, my parents down.
I was so scared for so many years that they were not going to love me and they were going to think less of me.
People who were gay were different. People who were gay, at least in the military, were not masculine.
Even though New York was probably the best place in the world to be gay, it's still gay had a pretty negative impression to me.
I kept it to myself, and I started cutting myself off from my friends.
It seemed like everybody practically was being called gay, in a teasing way, including myself already. So the last thing that I wanted to do was actually announce to everybody that I was in fact gay.
I couldn't go on living kind of these two lives where I didn't, living with this belief system that told me that being gay was wrong.
Gay was associated with AIDS. Gay was associated with those sex shops in Chelsea. Gay was associated with something that I think a lot of people around me didn't mind but didn't necessarily talk about.
I've always wanted to make people feel proud of me and make them want to love me. And I thought that if I was gay, then part of that pride and part of that love that others had for me would get chipped away.
All I knew is I didn't want anyone to know about it, so I just hid. I did everything to convince people that I wasn't gay.
I think my first reaction was just to suppress it, like there was this terrible thing and it was going to ruin my whole life.
It became harder and harder for me to keep up a whole other set of lies and stories, and it was becoming really difficult to keep everything together.
I was scared that they would be sad for me and they would reject me, and it's nerve-wracking to tell your parents that you are something that they don't necessarily approve of.
I was afraid my parents would reject me. I was afraid one of my sisters might, that I could lose a close friend.
The trigger for me was actually when there was a very cute girl at Berkeley where I was going to college, and she was interested in me, and all my friends were like, "Go, Woody, you gotta go out with this girl, she's great." And finally we scheduled a date, and I went to her dorm to pick her up, and it was actually on the walk that I realized that I just couldn't do this anymore, that it was one thing to mislead myself, but to mislead other people was just driving me crazy.
I went to the room and I stood awkwardly for about, 5 minutes until my mom asked me what was wrong. And then I was like, "I have something to tell you." And then there was, an awkward 60 seconds, which felt like an hour to me.
I went to a place I knew that would be quiet, sort of behind, at a little cafe behind one of the buildings at Duke. And I went through that whole meal and didn't tell Matt. And then I said, "You know what, enough." And so as we were walking away, I said, "Matt, I got to tell you something. I think I'm gay."
One of the first people I told was somebody I knew who was a lesbian activist and someone I trusted, so I didn't feel like she'd just suddenly out me or something. But I wanted to tell somebody, and she turned out to be an amazing resource, and she hooked me up with a whole community and support network that I didn't even know existed.
And I think she probably expected me to express my love to her or something, and instead I broke down crying, and I couldn't even say the word. It took me like 40 minutes, but eventually I got it out and I said, "I'm gay."
It just sort of happened organically. When I was 16, I told a couple of my friends, I told a few more people, a few of those people told more people.
But at that point, it's like, well, if I try to get out of saying that I'm gay, I have to say something else that's just as big, because this is just getting a little awkward.
Matt reacted like any great friend would. He said, sort of, "I love you, that's awesome, I'm glad you told me, this doesn't change anything."
So it took me about 45 minutes, a lot of crying, and I was really scared because I wasn't quite sure if I was still going to be able to be part of their community if they knew this about me that was different than what they had known.
When I told my parents, I just, I said it once, and actually, almost as if it was out of a movie, my dad completely misheard me, and so I had to repeat it again, and the second time around, I kind of just started crying.
What's amazing is that my experience as an openly gay man is so much better than my experience in the closet.
I feel more like myself than any other time in my life. It's amazing how one little thing that you unlock, it just releases all of your potential, who you are as a person.
Telling the first person is the hardest for me. And then once you kind of do it, it's almost like ripping off a Band-Aid. I mean, it just becomes easier and easier.
I guess the biggest change, I think I had said to my sister at one point that before I came out, I was living life in kind of black and white. And after I came out, I was living life in color.
I've had to redefine myself, and that, while a little scary, is also extremely liberating.
Don't be afraid to be who you are. You'd be surprised at how many people appreciate you by your differences.
It's just one part of who you are. It's not the core of my identity or anyone else. It's just one more thing about you that makes you special.
Even though it might be difficult for now, just realize that in the future, that will probably be one of your most treasured possessions. The fact that you are unique and you're different.
I mean, I'd spent years and years of my life thinking about it, planning for it, worrying about it, and no one reacted poorly in my life.
I feel like what I would do for gay kids is flip the golden rule on its head and say, do unto yourself as you would have others do unto you. Because when the whole world is giving you messages that say you're different or wrong or unnatural or all these kind of things, the best thing you can do is treat yourself really well and really gently, and remember how special you are, that this is actually a cool thing about you.
I never realized that being gay would mean that I'd have an instant community in any city in the world.
We are the beneficiaries of all the struggles that people before us had to go through. We're blazing these trails for you, so you better come and take advantage of that. High school and middle school suck for everyone. No one looks back on high school and says, this was the best time of my life. Everything that's going to be great and awesome and fun and fulfilling, all of that's to come.
Always stay positive and stay strong. You have to stay strong because it will get better.
It definitely gets better.
It does get better, believe me.
It gets better.
It gets better.
Yeah, it totally gets better.
It gets better. In fact, it gets awesome.
Hi, I'm Yvonne.
And I'm Robert.
We're Stanford Business School students, and we're here to tell you.
It gets better.
It totally does, doesn't it? Done.
All right.
I guess really my main connection is just based on a belief that any two people that want to be together and love each other should have the right to do that.
Talk to other people who you think can help you. That could be a friend, it could be a teacher, it could be a guidance counselor, it could be a relative. Talk to somebody you trust. The more that my sister, both my sisters, my straight and my gay sister, the more that they tell me about the things they're going through, the more I can understand their perspective.
I think one of the things that I've realized about my friends who are gay is that they have this exquisite sense of empathy and insight that is pretty rare. And I think that comes from the fact that people who have gone through the process of coming out have gone through a process that requires a lot of introspection and self-awareness.
I think the biggest thing that I can offer is that it's always hard to feel like you're the only one, and you're definitely not the only one. There's a lot of other people out there who love and care and support you, and if you can just find that one ally, find someone that you can confide in and trust, and with them things will definitely get better, and the support is out there and we're all rooting for you.
There's a big world out there, and it's full of all sorts of people, and it's full of gay people, straight people, all types of people, and some of them are always going to be a pain in the neck, and other people are going to be amazing. And what I'd really want to encourage you is to know that there are people out there that cannot wait to meet you.
I can't imagine how challenging it must be for people, and I want to know what I can do to help.
Oh my God, it gets so much better.
We're here to say,
it gets better.